On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Steph Curry has once again outdone himself, 50 points on the road in Game 7 versus the Kings. And as is often the case with Steph, it wasn't that he scored so many points, it was how he did it. Just a complete psychological destruction of the entire Kings franchise. The Kings play. There was one moment where Steph was yelling at the crowd, "You're not ready for this shit," or something like that. And that pretty much sums up what that Game 7 was. It was a team that was ready for that shit, and a very young team that, as TJ said, was a fun story, but ultimately might not have been ready for the bright lights of Game 7 versus the dynasty that is the Golden State Warriors. Just an absolute masterclass from Steph that got the talking heads overreacting, as they are wont to do when Steph Curry plays out of his mind. There's really no player on planet Earth that is more fun to overreact to than Steph. So people are doing that very thing on Monday. I've seen the wildest takes that maybe aren't that wild of where Steph's at in the all-time rankings at this point. And really there were two questions that came out of Sunday that I saw. Number one was, is Steph now the undisputed best player in the world at a time when Giannis choked the first-round series and Embiid is hurt and Jokic can't get over the playoff hump, so there's a lot of questions about him. And Steph is the defending Finals MVP. He had an incredible series against the Kings and just set the NBA record for points in a Game 7. Does this definitively put his stamp on being the best player in the world right this second? And secondly, now that we get Steph versus LeBron in round 2, if the Warriors are to beat the Lakers, Steph is to beat LeBron, and the Warriors go on to win another title, and Steph now has 5 championships to LeBron's 4 championships, is there a world in which he can catch this man all time? Those seem to be the two conversations I'm seeing a lot of. But like I said, you get how this happens. You know, what other first round would people overreact this much if not for Steph Curry? Just he does this to people. He's so magical that like he gets people just firing off takes. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Also, Rone is going to join us. Rone, Pat Bev Pod, son of a boy dad for Barstool, a guy that I've loved from afar. I had dinner with him one time, but it was a big table. Didn't get to talk to him a ton. And Rone is a man that I've admired, but we have not talked as much as I would like. And that's how it works in the content biz. When you see a guy you want to talk to, you don't talk to him off air, TJ. You get him on your show, and that's how you talk to him. So I wanted Rone on the show because he's a big Sixers fan. We're gonna do a Sixers Celtics preview, even though everybody listening, Game 1 already happened the night before for all of you listening. But I wanted to get Rone on before the game was played, so we can get his vibes going into the series. He's a big Sixers fan, just a Philly guy in general, and he also came at me for suggesting we should get rid of the NBA draft. So maybe I'll ask him about that. We'll see, but we'll see what comes up. I'm excited. I like Rone a lot, and like I said, just want to shoot the shit with them and see where the conversation takes us. But mostly want to talk about Steph and LeBron because this is setting up to be a round 2 series, unlike any of which, like, who the hell knows what other round, because nobody remembers round 2 series really that well. But this is going to be an absolute blockbuster, and I'm excited for it. So we're going to talk about it coming up. Let's do it. All right, Steph, 50 points, NBA record, Game 7 on the road against the Kings. Only 3 for 5 from the free throw line, which I think is really the shocking part of all of this to me. This was not a situation where he was just living at the line, and you know, he's obviously one of the best free throw shooters in NBA history. So a lot of times when Steph scores a ton of points in a game, he'll hit like 12, 13, 14 free throws. That was not the case. He was 3 for 5 from the line and just had the Kings running in circles all day. The Kings were playing catch up in this game the entire time. And like I kind of said at the top, Steph has this unique ability to score 50 points and leave you thinking that's it. Like that was all he had. Because when you watch him, he, more than any other player, maybe in NBA history, and this is the part where I'm falling in line with all the other talking heads and overreacting to Steph, because like, it's intoxicating. How can you not when you watch this man? But maybe more so than like any other player in NBA history, it feels like his points are worth more because they're just so insane. Some of the shots he hits, like the two that stood out to me was this man was already hot. And then he had the one in the fourth quarter from the top of the key where Keegan Murray was closing out, and Steph tried to get the and one, and kind of maybe it was a flop, but it felt like a play where he gets the call more often than not. zero separation, has a step back on a guy who's 6'8" with long arms, just splashes it in his face as he's falling down. And I think Jeff Van Gundy's description was like this. And then, of course, Steph does what only he can do. He's the only person that can do this. That play stood out to me. And then like a minute later, it was like 1 or 2 possessions later, there's the play where he's coming up to the right wing, and I think it was Wiggins was kind of in his way, and Draymond's throwing it to Steph, but Wiggins is in the way. So Steph like kind of steals the pass from Wiggins, bobbles the ball, spin moves off of Murray, and throws up a floater from the elbow, and that goes in. And those two plays together, again, are worth 5 points, obviously. But when you watch them like in that rhythm and and when Steph is in that zone, it just feels like it's worth more. And it's insane that he could score 50 points and leave me feeling like, I don't know. I was like, I honestly felt like more than 50. It felt like he scored 65 to 70 points. He was just so locked in from start to finish. And he also, by the way, I love this. Did you see this story, TJ, that Steph pulled the don't even get on the bus if you don't think we can win move, which is an all-time just – I think that might be the number one move to pull if you're the team leader, if you're playing on the road in the playoffs. That's number one. I'm thinking like my list of the best moves for motivational purposes, because don't get on the bus is like you're not trying to pump anyone up. You're actually doing the opposite. You just challenge their manhood and walk away. You're just like, I don't give a shit. Get on the bus or not. I'll play all these dudes by myself. But if you don't want to be here, don't be here. Like that's why that one works for me. So when I saw – I forget who reported that he said that, but someone said that was what Steph's message to the team was. It's like, if you don't think we can win Game 7, don't even get
at this point, I believe him, too, that he could just go out there by himself and just shoot every ball from the logo and score 100 in a game if he wanted to.
But that's why it works. It's because he's like, I do not need you. I don't need you. Like, this is not me trying to, like, pump you up. Pump yourself up. I don't give a shit. Like, come or don't. I don't care. I'm going to go get a dub. If you want to join me. Come on. I love the don't come on the bus if you don't think we can win a move. I love players-only meetings. I would probably put that at number 2. I think you call a players-only meeting, it's a guaranteed victory the next game. And then I'm a sucker for the some guys aren't, but I love the coaches that give the X number of minutes for the rest of your life. You know, whether it's a halftime speech, a pregame speech, college, pro, high school, whatever it is. 20 minutes for the rest of your life at halftime of a college basketball game, that always works. You're down 7 at halftime, and your coach is just yelling 20 minutes for the rest of your life. I think that works.
Yeah, 40 gets you 40 was a big one for us a couple years ago. Play 40 minutes in the Big Ten tournament, you play it well, you get 40 more minutes tomorrow night.
Yeah, there you go. 40 gets you 40. Yeah, just I like speeches like that. Some guys don't. Stuff I don't like. The number one move that for some reason coaches do this, and I hate it every time. I don't care what coach does it. If Bill Self did this, if Tony Bennett, who I love, did this, I would be like, this is a bad move. You should not have done this. The cutting down the nets to visualize what it feels like and looks like and all that.
Oh no, yeah.
The premature. You know how coaches will do that? They're like, we're gonna on the opening day of practice, we're gonna cut down nets just so you guys get a feeling for what this is.
The Mets, like 2 years ago, they in spring training they practiced celebrating winning a World Series on the mound.
Yeah, that's insane. I hate that. I don't care who you could if John Wooden and all of his national titles, if you told me he did that after winning all the national titles he did, I would still be like, that's fraudulent behavior. I don't like it. Even though he's the best, you know, he's the guy who's had more success than anybody else. I still don't like it. I don't care. Raising the same family, raising the banner before the season's over, which that'll stick with me forever. That San Diego State did that in 2020 after they won the Mountain West, and they still had regular season games to play, but they clinched the Mountain West title and put the banner up with like 2 regular season games left. I hated that, but then but then 3 years later they were playing for national championships, so maybe they were onto something. But I still, if you ask me, I think San Diego State started COVID. I think they raised the banner, and that's where COVID was born. Was in the Viejas Center. Or Viejas Arena, whatever they call it.
Them and Rudy Gobert together.
Yeah, handshake. Those are the. How do we feel about? So I did not mean for this to be the show, but I'm just riffing now. The martyr ejection from a coach, like Dan Hurley does this again. Like, speaking of things I don't like, but then also you look up in 2023 and the teams that did this have found success. I don't like the martyr ejection where the coach is like, I need to get my guys going. So I'm going to get tossed from this, or I feel like the refs are fucking us. So I'm going to fall on the sword here, get tossed from the game, and then hope that the boys rally behind me getting them fired up. I think a martyr tech works. I think a martyr ejection is too far, and I think you've done too much, and you've actually hurt your team.
I think it depends on the coach. I think Hurley's a great example of a coach that can get ejected and get his team fired up, and he also has like very elite assistant coaches.
That's true. It depends on who's taking over.
Right. There's some schools that either have very docile coaches that probably shouldn't be screaming in anybody's face, or have like maybe a lesser skilled assistant staff. But if it's my team, if Pike was getting in somebody's face and if that's what gets the boys fired up and rally around him, I'm all for it. Wins or wins.
I think too many coaches saw Hoosiers, and Norman Dale did it in Hoosiers, and then Shooter took over for him, and it worked. And I think coaches see that and are like, that's a great idea. I should do that. And I don't think it works as often as they want it to work. But the techs work. Like the tech, if you get one tech, if you motherfucker ref because he's has horrendous calls, or he's screwing over your superstar player, I think that does work, and that gets the team going.
That's what Fran McCaffrey runs pretty much every game.
Yeah, the stare down the ref with your hands on your hips. Is that a good motivational tactic or not? One other one that came to mind, then we can move on, was star players. So I don't mind them doing this. I mind it if it's a motivational tactic only. The star player who plays really poorly in a game and then is spotted getting shots up at 2 a.m. after that game in an empty arena and is just doing an individual workout. I don't mind them doing the workout if it's like to get himself going. That plays for me. But if this was like a move by the star player to get the rest of the team going, to lead by example in that regard, it just feels a little self-serving to me.
Yeah,
but I don't know what the motivations are. But like if I was on a team and our best player did that, it would kind of depend on who the player is. But I would.
Right.
My alarm bells be going off.
100% of situations like that, like 100% of the time, somebody happens to get a photo of it. Like
exactly.
Like, how exactly did we know he was still on the court?
Exactly.
To get a photo.
Exactly. Yeah. That's and yeah. I don't know. I'm being way too accusatory here, but that feels a little self-serve. But there are times where I think like guys don't necessarily. There are certain guys that I think. Like if Jimmy Butler did it, I'd be like, yeah, Jimmy Butler's just a dog, dude. He's just getting his shots in, and that's just how this man operates. But if other guys did it, I would definitely call him out for it. So it might depend on the guy. But anyway, Steph doing the don't get on the bus move and then dropping 50 is legendary, and that's exactly why he's the type of dude that gets people foaming at the mouth. And I mean, do you feel that way too, TJ? That like Steph, there's like a. Even if you're not a Steph, like he just does he does something to people when they're talking about him that like his like I said, his points feel like they matter more. In what other world would you be coming away from a game? I saw Colin Cowherd like opens a show talking about how Steph has eclipsed Magic Johnson, and I'm thinking like I don't know if you're right or wrong, but this is insane that after a first round series, after all we've seen this man do, all the championships he's won, all the insane shit he's done in his career. He wins a first-round series, and now you're like, okay, well, I've seen enough at this point. It was the first-round series that put him over but it's because it's Steph. It's because of like how he does it that you forget like the context that he basically beat a very young Sacramento Kings team that was, let's be honest, like a little happy to be there, whose best player had a broken fingernail, as we know. And if you like really apply all that context, you're like, I don't know if that should be enough to like push him into the next stratosphere of all-time grades. But it is because like when you're watching the game, you just get drunk off of like how fun this is watching it.
Yeah, Steph's inevitable, and he like broke basketball essentially. Like I think that it's good that he's getting that recognition, but like you said, like at what point is that overdue recognition?
At what point are we overdoing?
The guy is the greatest like distance shooter of all time, probably. And
no question about it. He revolutionized the game.
Every kid growing up wants to take 3-pointers now instead of driving.
Yes. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Like when I was growing up, you used to crank the basket. Like if one of your friends, or in my case, my parents sprung for this in our backyard, so it was sick. You have the goal that you can crank down to like 7 feet, and dunk. Like when I was growing up, in the 90s, you wanted to be the big guy. So you wanted to be your Shaq or your Hakeem. Like, guys wanted to be Jordan, obviously, but like the guys who dominated, the position that dominated was the big man, which is what made Jordan like stand out so much because he was like the wing, but like every team was like built around their centers, and So I was in the backyard, like doing drop steps on a 7-foot rim, like dunking like I was Shaq, and doing chin ups like Shaq would do, or he'd pull his knees up and like hang on the rim and stuff. But then somewhere along the line, maybe it was Kobe, maybe it was, Jordan. Also, like the Jordan influence kicked in, where like your Kobe's and your Vince Carters and your Jason Richardsons in the slam dunk contest, like the wing guys that were dunking were the cool things. And then LeBron comes into the league, obviously, and like he's more of that mold, where I think all the kids in the backyard are now, instead of like doing post moves and dunking on people, they're trying to, do whatever Kobe and Vince and MJ and all those guys are doing. And that became kind of the thing. And you're absolutely right, TJ. I think now that if I was growing up and my parents had the crank down goals in our backyard, I would probably not even touch them. And if I did, I would like crank them down to 7 feet and see how far I could shoot from. Yeah. That would be what I would do. I wouldn't even bother trying to dunk on them. You would just be jacking up shots from as far as you could.
Like when I was growing up, and when you shoot a piece of trash at the trash can or something, you yelled like Kobe.
Yeah.
I would assume kids growing up now are saying Curry.
Probably. I don't know. We'd have to get Francis. Isn't Francis the kid correspondent, the child expert at Barstool? Get Francis to do investigative journalism. So 2 questions around Steph right now. Like I said, these seem to be like the things, if you're doing a show about the playoffs, as I am, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fall in line here. But these seem to be like the 2 things everyone wants to talk about. Is number 1, is Steph, has he taken, some people would call it the belt, TJ, like the title belt, the label, whatever you want to call it. Like there's this only happens, I want to say, in the NBA. It doesn't really seem to happen as often in football or other sports, where the MVP is so obviously not considered the best player, and everyone just agrees that that's not, like, the guy might win the MVP, but he's not necessarily the best player. That's a completely different conversation. So that's where we've arrived with basketball, where it's like, all right, so we kind of have an idea of who's going to win the MVP. It's probably going to be Joel Embiid. If it's not, it might be Jokic, maybe Giannis. Who the hell knows? But what we do know is that there's this whole other conversation where, like, Kawhi, when he comes and plays in the playoffs and plays out of his mind, Kawhi always throws his hat into the ring of, like, best player in the world, even though Kawhi will never win an MVP because he plays half a season, So now, coming off of an NBA record, 50 points, Game 7 in Sacramento, has Steph Curry cemented his legacy is not the right, the moment in time we're in right now, cemented his case right now as the best player in the league, and especially with Giannis choking, because I think most people, maybe not, I don't know, but it felt like Giannis was the guy, and choking in the manner that the Bucks did against the Heat. I think that opens the door to now Steph has the big game he has, and that kind of leads to this overreaction that might not actually be an overreaction, because I think it makes that makes a ton of sense. I don't have a problem with that. If you're someone who believes that Steph Curry right now in this moment in time is the best player in the world, you're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, with Embiid being hurt, with Kawhi being hurt, LeBron is old at this point. We'll get into Warriors, Lakers, and what to expect there, and all that in a second. But Durant might not even be the best player on his team now. Devin Booker seems to be, like, when you think of the Suns and you're watching the Suns. I'm also saying this at a time when Game 2 is going to happen tonight between the Nuggets and Suns. So I guess I should knock on wood for my own takes that Kevin Durant doesn't just drop 70 tonight and make me look like an absolute boob. But yeah, I think Jimmy Butler might have something to say about it. It still might be Giannis eventually. Like, I think maybe like cooler heads will prevail. Like when we conceptualize this Giannis Bucks collapse, like Giannis was banged up and Budenholzer made a bunch of boneheaded decisions. And then also, I'm sure you saw this, Budenholzer's brother died in a car wreck, which, like, I mean, like, what are you supposed to say to that? As someone, like, you're criticizing Budenholzer's decisions. So on the one hand, you're like, yeah, the decisions were horrendous, but also, like, I kind of understand why his head might not have been in the game. So maybe we look up when the dust settles and we say it was always Giannis. Giannis never really lost his grip on this. I don't really know, but I don't know how you can watch what Steph Curry did against the Kings that entire series, but then to cap it off in Game 7 the way he did, coming off of a Finals MVP. That is something that I think sort of feels like an overreaction when I saw people waking up this morning talking about how Steph is the best player in the NBA and, like, yesterday proved it against the Kings. I was like, come on, this feels a little too reactionary here. But then I thought about it more, and I was like, honestly, I don't know who else Luka and Zion are too fat. I Jokic is still trying to get over the defense in the playoffs. Like maybe it's Jokic. Maybe at the end of these playoffs, like Denver, Jokic has his moment in the sun where Denver runs away with it, and they were right in front of us the whole time. But there've been a lot of doubts about whether Denver can actually do anything meaningful in the playoffs because their defense has been suspect in the past couple playoff runs. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess like that would be my mindset, is like I feel like crowning a guy after a first round playoff series feels a little premature. But then I guess the counter argument to that is we're not crowning him after this series. We're crowning him based on last year's playoffs and in this playoff series. And I don't know. The people that think Steph's the best player in the world would say he's not taking it from Giannis because Giannis choked. Giannis never had it from Steph in the first place. It was always Steph, would I guess be the argument. And that, if that is in fact the case, like I don't think I'm going to argue against that because he's incredible right now. So, yeah. Quick break to talk about the Barstool Sportsbook, the best betting app out there. I have it on my phone. Look at that. I was not a big gambler before I got the Barstool. Downloaded the Barstool Sportsbook, and I was immediately blown away by how easy it is to just click around, find what you like, build your own bet slips, all that sort of stuff. It is very, very easy. Even a moron like me that doesn't know what the hell he's doing when he tries to place bets. I download the Barstool Sportsbook. I was clicking around with college basketball. I was up, I think I ended up 40 units after the NCAA tournament, which, again, I don't say to brag. I just say it as a statement of fact that I was up 40 units from the NCAA tournament. And it was in large part thanks to how easy it is to place bets on the Barstool Sportsbook. The Barstool Sportsbook is now offering a $1,000 bonus for new players. If your first bet loses, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Download and create an account today. Use code Titus to unlock your $1,000 bonus. Go bet on the NBA playoffs, man. A lot of lines moving all over the place. Injury reports left and right. Who the hell knows who's healthy, who's not? Take some swings, man. Why not? It's been a fun playoffs, and some crazy things are going to happen. Download the Barstool Sportsbook. Get in on the action. Use code Titus. Unlock your $1,000 bonus. Terms apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. There's that.
We got Rone in the studio.
Oh, Rone's here?
Oh,
wait. Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, there.
Oh,
there
yes.
Brother.
What's up, Rone?
Good to see you, bro. Thank you for taking my bait.
Dude, I was. Is that what this was?
Yeah. I just wanted to talk shit on you so I could bait myself into getting invited on.
Dude, well, I appreciate you doing that. It's good to have you on, man.
It's
Rone.
Yeah, what do you want to argue about first, bro? I'm down.
We don't have to argue, dude. I don't want to argue. I'm not really an argumentative guy, really.
Me neither, honestly.
But I want to. No, go ahead.
No, I did. So I came at 3 of your takes that you had. I saw them bing bang boom, and I thought that they were interesting takes that I wanted to talk about, and there were 3 of them, and I don't know how much you stand by each of them or which ones you want to lean into, but the 3 were: you don't love Adam Silver, this NBA season sucked, and we should get rid of the NBA draft.
Okay, so I think the reason I took so much offense to this was that you compared me to the Mean Girls, and I watched the Yak enough, Rone, to know that was not a compliment at the slightest.
They were just hot. Those were spicy ones.
Okay, so Adam Silver, I'm a David Stern guy. That's really it. It's like Adam Silver, I think Adam Silver has positioned himself where he's like wants to be friends with the players more than he wants to make a league that America is really into watching and following. And I just have problems with like what I think Adam Silver, like I said to TJ on the show, like I think Adam Silver's when Adam Silver looks back on a calendar year and says, did I do a good job as a commissioner? He thinks about the night of the draft and dapping up the players as they come on stage. And if it's really clean and it looks cool and he got good pictures, I think he's like, I did it. I did my job. I think I did a great job. I think that's what he cares about most.
That you don't like that he's pro player.
I think he has like cool uncle vibes where he's like, I'm the cool uncle, like I'm the cool parent or whatever, and he doesn't want to be the disciplinarian. And I think at times like it would benefit the league if the guy was like, I don't want to play for this franchise anymore. I want to play for LA. And Adam Silver's like, cool, we'll get this done. I just miss the days of David Stern where he's like, we're not doing that. Like David Stern vetoed Chris Paul to the Lakers. And Adam Silver would never do that. And like at the time, it was kind of bullshit. I get that. And this is always the problem is because anytime you like you want to talk like David's like, you know, Adam Silver's too cozy with the players. It makes it sound like you don't want the players to like have rights or like make money or like have power or whatever, which is not the case. I'm a small market guy, Rone. I'm a Pacers fan that realizes the Pacers are never going to be good. And like to see like guys like Paul George just throw up his hands and be like, I think I'm done with the Pacers. And the league is like, all right, so we'll make this work for you.
But don't the Kings give you hope?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope that we can lose in the first round.
But they've at least built something. You know what I mean? They're turning these.
But I guess here my issue is like, what happens when De'Aaron Fox is like, I want to play for the Knicks or I want to play for the Celtics or I want to play, and then.
But guys like Halliburton were like, I want to be here forever. He's like, I want to build something in this small market. I don't think you're going to exclusively get guys who want to be out of the small market. And if nobody wants to be in the small markets, then that really kills your we shouldn't have a draft argument. But as far as Adam Silver, I think that he has improved the game as far as globalization. I think that the NBA is way more global of a league than any other pro sports league, and it's kind of the second biggest game in the world behind soccer. And as far as how he's done as a commissioner, I think only Gary Bettman has improved the revenue of the league more than Adam Silver. And Gary Bettman's had like 3 work stoppages over the last however many years that he's been the commissioner. So he's going through with no work stoppages. There's always a product out there. I don't have a problem that the players get along with him, because one of the main reasons they get along with him is nobody gets suspended for smoking weed anymore. Like, these guys can smoke weed freely right now, which in my book is like the biggest mark in his favor. He took.
So that's all it takes.
I swear to God, I think if any league was like, okay, you guys can just smoke now, like the rest of the rules are still going to be in place, people would love him, and there'd be tons fewer unnecessary suspensions.
I hate load management. I hate players being able to dictate like where they want to play. Like the fact that like Kevin Durant can say, I want to be traded and this is the list of teams I want to get traded to. I just think that's insane. I think that's just like that's something I'll never be able to wrap my mind around. That like when your contract's up, go play where you want to play. You're a free agent at that point. But I don't know. I just like it doesn't make any sense from like a like at that point, then the contracts are worthless and like everything like the system is obviously like I don't even know what the system is anymore. That's the problem I think with the current NBA. I don't even know what the load management stuff is very much a problem.
But aren't max contracts designed so teams will be incentivized to stay with the team that drafted them, which in theory benefits small market teams?
Yeah, but I don't think that's an Adam Silver thing. I think that was just like always.
But I'm saying so even if a team if a guy demands to be traded, like it's almost players taking back a little bit of their autonomy.
Right, which I don't think players have like that. That's what I mean. Like this isn't like a players shouldn't have power. I think it's more of like a tug of war that needs to take place. I think when players want to wield their power, there should be like more negotiation that goes into it. Like I don't know the load management's the part that drives me crazy, but the trade stuff.
What do you like about the load management? I'm happy to talk about that.
Because I think with sports, you have to be as a fan. There are certain things that you just like don't think you have to have. There's certain truths that need to exist. There are pillars of truth when you turn on a sporting event, and one of them has to be that every guy that's healthy is playing. And every guy that is playing is trying his hardest. And that's my issue. If we want to go into one of the other points that I said where the regular season sucked, that's my issue with the NBA in the regular season, is that very clearly the players do not care. They're very open about it, which is why when the playoffs start, you start hearing about how like they're a different animal in the playoffs and defenses get tightened up and rotations get it's a very different sport once the playoffs hit. And I think that's like that from a fan perspective, that just blows my mind. Like I shouldn't have to figure out which teams are trying to win tonight when I'm turning on a regular season NBA game. I shouldn't have to like figure out who's sitting out and why they're sitting out and all that sort of thing. It should just be like the guys that are healthy are going to play and the guys that are playing are going to try their best. Now I understand why they load manage. I understand that like it's just like whatever led to this point. That's ultimately what it is. Like I'm not saying the players should have more or less rights or the owners should have more or less rights. It's that like somewhere along the line the fans have lost out. And as a basketball fan, like I found the regular season to be the worst it's ever been this year.
I think that if it were a 60-game regular season, I would have no problem with that.
Right.
I think
I agree with you.
That could only help the sport, but I also think that especially owners would never take 20 games off the table of home game revenue. There's no chance that they're – so from that perspective, it's not – I mean, Adam Silver's an owner's, commissioner. Like, he's not going to take this revenue away from the owners. He's looking out for these guys.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I guess that's my problem. Is like you can't have a league where guys like that just breaks my brain that there's a basketball league where guys – some games just don't matter.
But the load management, I don't think that was like the overarching story of the NBA this season. Like, I don't think that if you distill the NBA down to a storyline, I think that that's way down in the pecking order.
Now, hold on a second. You're saying this as you're wearing a 76ers hat and a 76ers sweatshirt.
Right.
Your best player is about to win the MVP.
Yeah.
How much does that factor in? That you were just plugged into the MVP race.
Well, I was super plugged into like the Lakers this year because of Pat Bev. I think that from whatever metric you look, I think that the MVP race was the tightest MVP race that we've ever had. I think, or not, maybe not ever had, not to speak in an absolute like that, but I think that you had 3 extremely worthy players for the MVP as far as the statistics that they had going on. I think you have 2 top 10 players of all time that have taken their team to the playoff and have gone on to the second round of the playoff. I think that you've seen awesome storylines as far as like trades throughout the season that changed the landscape of the NBA, and like the fact that it's the game that we love and they're playing it. Like, it's hard for me to be like, this is the worst product I've ever seen. I love basketball. I love watching.
Yeah, I do
basketball.
too. That's what I'm saying. Like, I love basketball, which is why like trying to figure out who's playing and whether it's a game that matters.
But
like,
what percentage of the games did that affect that you were watching?
A lot of them. You turn it on the game. Like we have a Warriors-Lakers series. We're going into the series now. And they played how many times this year where both teams are at full strength? Like, it didn't happen at all. And I don't know. It just like makes it that's my issue with what the NBA regular season. That's not like I guess like I look at it from I love the sport, and it's not. I can't figure out like what it even is now for the regular season. And I think this is like what's frustrating to me is that the league is very open about this. That's what's like weird. Is like they're very open about. I don't think it's a debate that they're like load managing.
Totally.
This is something that's definitely happening. I don't think it's a debate that like they care more defensively in the postseason than they do in the regular season. And I understand how it all I understand that if you busted your ass every single possession in the regular season, you're going to wear out quick. And I understand all these things. And like, it's all the motivations make sense to me. I'm just saying from a fan perspective, like on a random February night when I throw on the TV, I want to be able to watch dudes that are going to be going at each other.
You're acting like the product's not entertaining.
I don't think it is at the regular season. I don't think it is.
I think that we saw like incredible regular season performances, like a litany of guys having 50-point games that were like.
Well, that's my problem. It's like when
watch TV.
If it happens if you were watching football and every game was like 76 to 64.
I'd love it.
Like
if I could watch the Chiefs against the Bills every single game, like a shootout, that doesn't sound awesome to you? Like a Chiefs game?
No, at a certain point I'd be like, I don't care that Josh Allen threw 7 touchdowns because it's like when Carson Wentz is also throwing 7 touchdowns every other game, it stops being impressive to me. I don't know. That's where I arrive. But reasonable minds can differ. That's what I mean. We've talked about TJ and I've talked about this ad nauseum. Like, this is what the real issue is. Like, basketball, I think when I was growing up, basketball was one sport, and now it's become 2 sports. College and NBA are completely different sports. Like Fran Fraschilla, the analogy he uses is, I think I've heard him say a few times, it's like Spanish and Portuguese, where like you think it's the same thing, but if you actually like pay attention, you're like, oh, this isn't even the same thing at all.
The roofs are a little bit different. The way they cook the shrimp's a little bit different.
Yeah, like this is I thought this sort of sounds like the same language, but now like wait a second.
But don't you think that college football and pro football are a little bit different? Like you're going to see a different, like you'll see some. There's literally the term pro style quarterback. It's like a different style of play.
You're right.
Almost.
Yeah, you're right. I think the rules and the and the talent and just sort of like how the approach to both leagues has become so different that I guess like that's where as you see here in 2023 as a basketball fan, the diversion is so wide at this point that I don't think college is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm willing to have conversations on how to make college basketball better. But the one thing I know I'm getting with college basketball every single night is like dudes are going to be trying their hardest to win every single game they're playing. And that's just kind of like that's where it all fall apart. But for me, but then with the playoffs come around, like I'm into the playoffs just as much as you are. I mean, I don't have a team in the playoffs, obviously, but like as far as like being a basketball fan, this has been an incredible playoffs. This first round was insane, and I think it's wide open. I really do think all 8 of these teams can win it all. I don't know. Maybe I'll walk that back, but it feels that way right now. So
does it? I mean, maybe like the Heat Knicks series is a weak link, but that's still a super exciting series to watch from a historical perspective. And these two teams are like hard-nosed teams. They're going to play their stars a lot of minutes, and they're going to play hard as hell.
And you got with the Heat, you got Jimmy Butler, assuming he's healthy, a dude that just has shown his ability to will his team to wins that they have no business winning. So
I think that's one of the things I like about it. I think that load management doesn't bother me so much because all of these teams have multiple super max guys. And so no matter what happens, even if an Embiid is sitting out, you're still going to see some guys who are 20-point scorers and who are like superstars, multiple-time all-stars, and you're still going to scratch that itch in some way. It's not like when we saw the Mavericks sitting everybody and they got fined by the league for it. They got in trouble for like their overt tanking. I think that load management isn't as bad as people think tanking was, and I think that they're almost different categories where you're not outright trying to lose, but you're saying, hey, maybe this guy needs to sit in the ideal of having a long-term goal for him, and maybe the rest of this team can get it done without him. Because I think we've seen, like if I'm just talking about the Sixers, I've seen them win games this season. They closed out without Embiid. Like they've won games without Embiid. It's not a guaranteed loss.
Yeah, and that's going to help them obviously now in the like moving forward. Now that you might have to play without Embiid. So I'm not confused as to why it's happening. I guess like that's just my thought as a fan when I turn a game on. I should not have to like think through. I shouldn't have to like sit down and be like, oh, so these two guys are out and that guy's out. But that's because if you really think about it and you think about last year when he kind of ran out of gas at this time and it looks like these guys are going to want to work on, I shouldn't have to think about that. I should just be like, I want to watch the best players play and I want them to try their hardest. And I don't know, sometimes I just felt like in the regular season that wasn't always happening. But I do think the fact that that's the regular season was in my mind like such a, I don't know if mess is the right word, but it just, everyone at this point in 2023 in the NBA, everyone is now focusing on just the playoffs. And with that in mind, that is because the regular season was so bad, if you want to put it that way. I think that's what's making the playoffs so good is because the seeding, you just throw it out the window. This is the first time a 5, 6, 7, and 8 have all won a playoff series. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think you have a situation like you have where, like even the Lakers, as TJ and I have talked about on the show a bunch, like the Lakers load manage during the games where LeBron James is like the load management king. He just does it while he's playing the games where he's taking like
a whole possession off.
He takes whole possessions off.
Yeah.
But with that, it becomes fascinating because you can't figure out how good the Lakers actually are because like the old way of thinking about basketball is like the moment the ball is tipped off, you're just going to go balls to the wall and you're going to try to beat dudes by 50 points. And LeBron is like so cerebral about it that he's like, we got to win by 1 and that's it. So I'm going to like do just enough to get us across the finish line. So now you have a playoffs where like trying to handicap it is impossible because we've never really seen these teams. We don't have the data on these teams like we've had in the past where like the best teams going into the playoffs every single year are going to be the best teams at the end because they proved it. They already proved it over 82 games that they're the best teams. Why do we need to, it's almost like the playoffs just kind of like reaffirm what we already saw in the regular season. That doesn't happen anymore. So I think like it actually is a good thing in the end. I was just saying from like the standpoint of the regular season as a basketball fan for me this year was just not as fun. That was all. So I think it's going to work out in the end. And I think the league's like in a fine spot. It's just, I would like for them to figure out something with the regular season, some more incentives. And to that point, your guy, Adam Silver, is doing that, Rone, which is why they're putting in the mid-season tournament and all that shit, because he sees the same problems I do.
That shit is dope, though. I welcome the mid-season tournament. I welcome more teams having a bite at the apple as far as making it into the playoffs, that these 10 teams are making it now, because like you said, all you need to do is get into the playoffs. And we saw a Miami Heat team that was on the verge of not making the playoffs now that they've beaten a number 1 seed. It's kind of a win and get in type of situation.
to have two play-in teams still playing is great, and I do think the play-in thing is awesome. But I honestly I don't really. The Adam Silver in the regular season thing, I didn't care that much about. It was that you told me that I was on some Mean Girl shit with
your argument that I found.
That was the one that I heard. That was the one that hurt me.
the argument, and I do appreciate you calling the dogs off on the Paul George podcast on my behalf, bro. That was nice of you to be riding for me.
No, I did. By the way, I said that on the show already, but
yeah,
I'll say it again now that you're here. That I know the people that work on that show, and I saw the beef going on. I wasn't like, necessarily doing it on you're fine. You don't need my help. You would absolutely fucking smoke those dudes in a battle of wits. But I
was really just trying to.
I texted him. I was like, yeah, you should not go down this road. Yeah.
I really was. It was the same way that I'm coming on this show and using it as like good podcast beef to like promote both your show and the Pat Bev Pod. Like that's all I was trying to do, and I feel like they like took it personally. I was like, damn, bro, I wasn't. That's not how I was trying to play. I guess I played too hard, but I was really just playing around, and I don't mean any of that shit personally. But of the three arguments, the one, as I kind of assessed it, that I had the least amount of counter argument to was that the draft shouldn't exist. And I was like trying to be like, damn, why do I like the draft so much? And I want to hear your reasons for why you think that it shouldn't exist. I'm intrigued by your logic about it.
Yeah, so this was something that what was so funny about it was this wasn't even like my original idea. I just heard this idea once upon a time, and I felt in the same way that the wheel started turning. You're like, yeah, that's interesting. The same thing, it happened to me, and it just stuck with me, and I can't get it out of my head. I think the draft shouldn't exist because I think it's actually. I think the idea of first of all, it would fix tanking. I think it fixes, because like right now the main motivation behind tanking is getting winning the lottery, getting the generational pick, and in this case, for this draft, it's obviously Wembanyama. But there are drafts where there's an obvious cutoff line where it's like the top 3 guys going into the draft are going to be generational guys or whatever. There are drafts where everyone knows you got to have whatever pick and it'll change your franchise forever. Mm-hmm. And your Sixers obviously made it famous, the idea of tanking and the process and all that sort of thing.
Right.
But it's at this point, I think it has gotten to a point where going back to like the regular season type stuff, like you have to have a situation where every team cares about winning. So if you have teams that are tanking earlier in the season, earlier and like their whole focus going into like this season is how do we get Victor Wembanyama instead of like competing for an actual championship, eliminating the draft would create a situation, one, where teams aren't going to tank because you get nothing in return. There is no prize at the end of the yellow brick road for you. But also you have to run a competent franchise, because now the players coming in, it's like college recruiting. So like if Wembanyama is watching like the Rockets and the Pistons stinking it up, he's not going to want to go play there because they're incompetent franchises. So even if you're a young franchise like say the Thunder, who technically didn't make the playoffs, but are very well run, have a lot of fun prospects, have a lot, there's a lot of promise in that franchise. You have a selling point to Wembanyama to say like, come play for our franchise. We offer XYZ. We're well run. We have our shit together. Whereas in the current system, Victor Wembanyama might end up at a franchise he wants no part of, and I think it fixes that issue too, Ron, where guys get drafted to places they don't want to be at. They wait for their rookie contracts to get out, and then they go sign with the Lakers or the Nets or wherever else. I think it takes away from that because they're choosing to be wherever they end up. So that's kind of the genesis of that's sort of the thought process.
So how would you have run the Spurs this year? Say that you are like a GM, or I don't know how much influence Pop has on their decision making, but I presume that it's a lot of influence that he has. How would you have gone about building that team and trying to win with that team this year?
So I guess like the thought process of the Spurs is if Wembanyama is the target, you just kind of, because this happens with college basketball as well, where like guys are like, you don't necessarily punt on the season, but you're just like realistic about what the season is, and you're like, all right, we're not going to win a national championship, but there's this great recruiting. There's a local recruit that's really good, and it's important that we still stay competitive and keep his interest and all that sort of thing. I think the idea of the Spurs looking towards the future and building their roster around Victor Wembanyama before he even gets there, I wouldn't have had a problem with that, and that feels like a little less. It makes a little more sense in my mind. It's an easier pill to swallow for me with the tanking stuff. If you're like actually planning for the future instead of like taking a big swing at a roulette table is basically what's going on though. Like if you're tanking, if tanking was guaranteed to work, where it's like if it was the NFL where you actually have the worst record, you're going to get the best player. That makes a little more sense. But the idea that like teams can just like over and over and over again keep just punting on their seasons, I don't know. That just doesn't feel. That feels
it's antithetical to the competition.
Antithetical to what, the NBA should be, in my opinion. So
I think it didn't wind up hurting the Sixers as far as I think one of the things you would worry about is like one, teams lose interest. Players, fans lose interest, and I think that for the Sixers, it's fomented even more of a fervor about it because you felt like you bought into these players at a really young age. But I think that the second problem that I kind of see about it is that what if you have a salary cap situation where it's a hard cap, and so the team with the worst amount or the worst record will have maybe the most money to be able to spend.
Right.
What if Victor Wembanyama doesn't want to go to the Spurs? And what if it is the free market that you're proposing and he's like, hey, like I'd rather take less money to go to like whatever Miami or something, pay less taxes, and you're even more in purgatory if you're the Spurs because you can't attract these guys. You'll
never get the guy. I don't think that'll happen. I think the players want the money.
You think so?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but that's kind of the system we're in right now. It's like, what if LeBron? People have been saying that forever. Like, what if LeBron? If LeBron cares about catching MJ with titles, why doesn't LeBron just sign league vet minimum deals and go to the best teams and win titles and win? And the answer is because I don't think guys think about it. I think it's a very rare situation. Like the one guy that I can remember that did that was Dirk, where he took like less money than he probably could have gotten elsewhere.
I think Harden took less money this year for the Sixers. I think and let them to let them do something. But I mean, that's to kind of preserve his situation, and he has an out where he might go back to Houston this coming offseason if we can't get out of the second round.
The story with Dirk was always that there was almost certainly some under the table stuff going on.
He probably had a car dealership in Texas where everything was just going in his name. Some offshore shit in Germany probably.
No, if I remember right, like the part of my argument too is like the idea that guys can pick where they play. I think that helps the league because then, like one of the issues I have, as I've been mentioning here a little bit, but with the NBA in general is like it just feels like the NBA players themselves oftentimes feel stuck on the teams that they're on, and they want out, and they demand trades, and I'm not saying they shouldn't, I'm not saying that they're wrong to feel that way. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way to create a situation where all the players that are at the team they're at, or maybe not all of them, but a higher percentage of the players that are where they're at chose to be there, and like it's a little less. I think it's a little less feeling. Yeah.
I think you get into a situation where a lot of these guys realize that a max contract will be significantly more money than if they sign with another franchise. They don't have those super max rights that you get if you sign with your own franchise. So it's sometimes like a bad faith effort to sign a full max contract, knowing that you could just request a trade in a year and a half if things aren't going your way. So you will have had all the money that you can get, but you will also be able to determine where you play or have a little bit more influence in where you play. And I could see where that would be super frustrating from an ownership standpoint, where it's like, well, my hands are tied. Like, I either have to give this guy all of his money and then trade him when he wants to get traded, or I just don't sign him in the first place, and like then I wind up losing this superstar that I've worked so hard to get.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's delicate.
I guess, yeah. That's my thought is just like, but this is the same with college sports. It just feels, I just feel defeated at times as a fan, where you're just like, I get how we got here, and I'm not saying either side is wrong. I just feels like it sucks. It just feels like, I don't know. You want like rivalries in the NBA to matter, and I think they are. There are rivalries if you look for them, and there are, like you said, there are a ton of great storylines and a ton of great young players, and there's a lot to love about the league. It's just, it shouldn't be so hard. You shouldn't have to earn it as a fan. You should be able to turn it on and it should be right in your face at all times. You shouldn't have to go dig and find a fun young Thunder team that's like fun to cheer for. The Kings were a fun story this year. How often were the Kings on national television? You know,
not a lot.
So I think that's the issue I have, is that like you have to work harder as a fan to find the gold in the NBA throughout the regular season. Now the playoffs are here. It's right in front of your face every night, and I'm fired up about that. What is your vibe read on the Sixers Celtics?
I haven't.
This is coming out tomorrow, so everyone listening already saw the game tonight.
And either Embiid
it's a long series.
Didn't do much, or he did play, and or I don't even know. I should be more scared than I am, but after losing the World Series and losing the Super Bowl, as a Philly fan, like I have no heart to rip out anymore. You know, there's nothing left. It is just the empty cavity inside my chest. So it's, you know. Are the odds stacked against us? If you look at the Barstool Sportsbook, will you see like tremendous odds for the Celtics to win this series? Are they the favorite to win the championship? Yes, but somehow I still believe, and somehow I've steeled myself for the fight.
Where do you stand on Celtics fans, Boston in general? Because I was asking TJ about that, the Boston, Philly, New York triangle, and the power rankings of hatred and rivalries and all that sort of thing. Like, because Philly, there's the Philly-New York rivalry, but there's a Philly-Boston rivalry. Is Boston number one? Is DC in the mix?
I'd say for basketball, DC's not in the mix, and I'd say Boston's number one right now. I'm almost happy for the Knicks. It's almost fun. And if we wound up seeing them in the playoffs, like they'd probably give me a hard time, and I wouldn't like it. But Boston has this unfounded superiority complex that makes my skin crawl. Like they take personal ownership as if like they did it themselves, and as if they don't. They've won championships since Larry Bird. Like they act like there's the Patriots juice has like dribbled onto the rest of their food when it's really not like that. Like they don't have it like that. But it's this like underlying cockiness that really just infuriates me, and maybe it's deserved because we haven't been able to get over the hump. But our day will come. Like that shit like can't last forever.
So if I told you Joel Embiid will not win the MVP and Jokic will win it, his third MVP this year, and Embiid fell 1 or 2 votes shy, but the Sixers will sweep the Celtics.
Oh my God.
Is that a trade you take?
I don't give a fuck about the MVP like that. And I had like a fucking great long shot, like plus 800, like in the Barstool Sportsbook. Like I like put it in at exactly the right time when his odds were the highest. I don't give a fuck about. I'll lose that money so happily if we can beat the Celtics. That's one monkey off the back. But also, we have this impasse in the second round for Embiid, for Harden, and for Doc Rivers. It's like this Captain Planet of like ineptitude in the second round that is infuriating, and I wind up internalizing it the same way that these freaking Celtics fans wind up internalizing it, except for mine is negative and they have the superiority complex. Like it is, I'd trade it in a heartbeat.
I can't imagine being in an office with all the Boston people.
It's great that with Dave not around, because I can kind of like, you know, throw it around a little bit more. But they're like sneakily they're cockroaches, like they're termites, bro. They're in the woodwork and they're just like crawl out like when it's playoff time. Like fucking remember the Celtics.
How many of them pretended to care about the Bruins for like 3 weeks, and then the Bruins
there was
the
a
Bruins
fair
get bounced,
enough
and all of a sudden
and they just switch a different hat on. Bro, they forget that the Patriots suck now, dude. They're gonna have they better enjoy the basketball hockey season, because the football season's gonna suck for them now.
I meant to ask you. I've never asked you before. I told TJ before you came in. You're a dude that I've always like respected and loved from afar, but like we've never actually talked that much.
Right.
If I'm being completely honest, 'cause I'm not really in the office that much,
right.
And yeah. So
Same. It was like a mutual respect from afar. I listened to your your show back in the day. So
I've always been curious how did the Pat Bev partnership come about? Was this something that that you were involved in from the start? Were you like assigned to him? Because you guys have such natural chemistry, and it feels like you guys go way back, but I've never actually like asked you about that relationship.
It was last summer around this time. It was shortly after the Wolves had got eliminated from the playoffs, and he was doing his ESPN press tour, calling Chris Paul a cone. And around that time, which was a great soundbite, licking my chops. He's just a relentless, like, one-of-one shit talker, elite shit talker, which is a big part of the game of basketball, I think. And during that time when he was going through all those press runs, I got a back-to-back days, I got a text from Erica and I got a text from Dave being like, hey, we're in talks with Pat Bev. We think that you would be a great partner for him on this show. And I was like, I think so too. I've long loved basketball, and I'm not like a basketball savant. I literally suck at basketball. You know what I mean? I'm purely like a diehard fan, and that's the perspective I look at it. I don't try and X and O-ify basketball in a way that I can't. You know what I mean? I'm not too big for my britches. I just understand it from the perspective that I have it. And so I was like, as a fan of basketball and as a fan of shit talk, I'm 100% in. And it took a couple months for this partnership to kind of, for the seeds to kind of grow into anything legitimate. And I don't think that Pat Bev knew me from Adam. You know, he really had no idea who the fuck I was. But credit to him for kind of taking a chance and then being like, hey, I think we got a guy for you. And he was just like, yeah, whoever this guy is. He didn't know about, like, the rap battle stuff. He really didn't know about any of my history at Barstool. And so he was just like, yeah, whoever can be, like, the co-host or whatever. And
wow.
I was down, and it's just kind of a testament to who he is as a teammate, because I think he's the kind of guy that when you watch him, he's the guy that you hate to play against, but you love to have him on your team. And I think that that's carried over to me being his teammate at Barstool.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, if you would have told me that you guys like went to junior high together, I'd believe it. Like you have such great chemistry that but I knew that wasn't the case. So I was just always curious as to how
we are the exact same
came
age.
to be.
We were born within like 2 months of each other, so we have, I think, some of the same like frame of reference culturally. You know what I mean? We like the same artists.
Well, that might be. I'm your guys' age, by the way. I never realized you and I were the same age. You've always struck me as a guy that's like way older, which I hope you don't take the wrong way. Like, I mean that as a compliment, because like I always feel like you're so comfortable in every room you walk into. And that to me is just like a sign of a guy who's got his shit together. So I was always like, yeah, Rone's probably like 5 or 6 years older than me.
That's hilarious. I usually get people thinking I'm young as fuck because I'm face bald. But you know what I mean? I can live with that. But it was just I guess I think that comes from battle rap, coming from someone just like screaming obscenities in your face. It makes you calm in every other like situation.
So how has doing the show with Pat Bev affected your NBA fandom? Do you feel like you're too close to it now? Like you know too much, and it's
not that I know too much, but it clouded who I rooted for at times. I would find myself really rooting for the Lakers when he was on the Lakers, because it was like, this is good for the show. If the Lakers win, like, it's almost me rooting for myself professionally. And then,
but then if you went back and told 12-year-old you're going to cheer for the Lakers, you'd be like, that's disgusting. I hate that'll never happen. You know,
I'd have to end things.
So
it would have been a bad. It was dirty.
I honestly like that. I mean, humble brag or whatever, but it's just the reality. Like I know so many guys that like went on to play in the league that like it really did just obliterate my fandom to where you just start cheering for guys, and then you talk to those dudes about like other guys in the league, and I don't even want to hear that shit, because like they'll tell me guys I hate are actually like cool dudes, and they're like, yeah, if you actually met him, you would love him. I'm like, don't tell me that. I don't want to know any of that.
It changes everything.
It changes everything, man. Like even a guy like Pat Bev, like I never really hated him, but you know, you have like an idea who he is, and then like you start to get to know, you know, you listen to his show or whatever, and you're like, oh, so there's this that's different, there's that's different. And sometimes that's nice because you want to give people a fair shake, but other times if you're just a rational asshole like I am more often than not when I'm watching sports, you don't want that, because you don't want to know that these people have lives outside of
yeah, they're real people. One of the joys of the Pat Bev Pod has been, like, as I'm following the teams, I've seen him as he got to the Lakers, so I go on the Lakers Reddit, and they'd be like, man, Pat Bev, like they didn't have the best opinion of him at first, and by the time he leaves, they're like, I fucking died for Pat Bev. And then he goes to the Bulls, they're like, Pat Bev, like, this isn't exciting, and they're like, we need to re-sign Pat Bev. It's like watching him galvanize fan bases has been a cool part of the journey.
Last thing I want to ask you about, you did Storm Chasers with Caleb forever, which I could not get enough of that content that you guys were putting out when you would go to college basketball games, and you had 100% hit rate. I swear to God, every time you guys were in an arena, the upset would happen. Memories from that, stories from that, like what, as you look back on it, like were you well versed in college basketball? Was this like a new experience for you to go to these college basketball arenas? Just like as you look back on that experience of traveling around the country and storming the court, like what stands out to you?
I think there was I wasn't massively familiar with college basketball. I would even watch college basketball with an eye towards the NBA draft. And so it's like, oh, we're watching Auburn play. I got eyes on Jabari Smith. I was like, is this guy a pro prospect? Like, where do I think that he ranks in the top, pantheon of guys who might be drafted into the league? But I think early on, it was such a good way to prepare for the tournament because we're watching unranked teams play against ranked road opponents. So that first year, we're at Syracuse, and then we're watching them play against Virginia, this like stacked Virginia squad that goes on to win the national championship. So it's like I feel like I'm acutely aware of Virginia's game. Like we watched like this Baylor team super early on, and it's like, oh, like now I know the ins and outs of Baylor. But like apart from watching the actual teams play, it's the fact that we were like so close to getting arrested or like kept getting arrested. Like the fact that we literally got arrested at UConn and like they pressed charges, and like we're literally sitting there. It was right after Dave had gotten dragged out of the Super Bowl, sitting in the first row of this UConn, watching this UConn game at home, and they had reserved for Barstool Sports in our seats, and we kind of sat there, and the police came up to us and they're like, hey, you can't be here. They must have heard something. And like Caleb muttering to me just like, hey, like if anything happens, just go limp. Like he was like trying to emulate Dave's basically Barstool playbook of if you're going to get kicked out of an event, you're going to get dragged out of the event. And so I was kind of like the intermediary. Like I'm always the guy like to try and talk to cops, get us out of a sticky situation. And like I felt like I built up enough of a rapport where Donnie gets dragged out, Caleb gets dragged out, and I kind of like I walked out just hands up, and ever since then they've called me a turncoat snitch. They're like the fact that I didn't get dragged out up there at UConn, they were furious. They gave me like one less charge because like I had talked to the cops. They're like they got 2 charges, I only got the 1. They were furious at me that I had turned on them and didn't get dragged out along with them. And it almost happened again at Arkansas. Like they were ready to arrest us again at Arkansas.
TJ, cut this part from the podcast, but between you and me, Rone, I would have done the exact. I would not only have done the exact same thing. I would have taken it even further, and I would have been on the cop side, and I would have done anything I could to stay in the arena and watch the game.
Right.
I would have waved at Caleb and the rest of the guys.
I was trying so hard. I was like making these logical appeals to these cops, and I was like, hey, like I'm the one who talked to you. You said that you would be more lenient with me. Like I was really like appealing to their like humanity, whereas like Donnie was like ready to spit in their faces. I was like, chill, Donnie, like that's enough. You don't have to be like, we're in the like hallway when no cameras are even on us anymore, and Donnie's still like wrestling with these cops. I'm like, bro, you're good, dude. We're gonna take our charges. We're gonna get the fuck out of here. Like you don't have, this isn't for the show anymore. We were just getting dragged out for show.
Well, this is now I'm worried because I've been at Barstool for like 2.5 months now. Is there going to be a moment where I'm going to have to get arrested to prove my loyalty to this company?
Bro, you might have to get arrested, but the thing that comes with getting arrested is that lifetime contract. You know what I mean?
That is true.
You get that arrest on the record, like they can't get rid of me now. Like I'm going to say whatever I want on camera the way that Mintz does, bro. They're still not going to be able to get rid of my ass.
No,
not to that level.
As the president of the Ben Mintz fan club,
right? You always have been the biggest supporter of him.
It's rough. I sent TJ. I said I'm taking the Steve Kerr Hong Kong approach when Daryl Morey was tweeting about Hong Kong, and Steve Kerr was like, "What is that? What's the story?"
I've never heard of Hong Kong.
I've never heard. I need to do more research. You know what? I'm gonna go home and do some research.
There's a history
and I'll get
behind
back
that
to you.
word. I'm gonna sit my ass down and listen.
That's my Ben. I'm just pleading ignorance, and I'm like, what did he do? I didn't hear. I mean, I've heard some things like he may have done this or that, but I didn't actually see or hear. You know, I don't really know, so I'm gonna stay out of that one.
Smart man.
All right, Rone, you're the best. Thanks for making time. Good luck to the Sixers. I am pulling. I will join you in taking down the Boston Empire. I got beef with Boston basketball in general. Just from there's a lot of like Indiana, Boston undertones that most of the country doesn't realize, but those of us in Indiana feel strongly. Like the Larry Bird, like we're very possessive in Indiana over Larry Bird, and obviously Boston wants Larry Bird, and Brad Stevens is another one,
right?
And like kind of like who invented basketball? Like it was invented in Boston, but like Indiana, like James Naismith when he was, you know, as he lived his life, he's like, Indiana is the basketball place of this country, but somehow Boston and Massachusetts gets the Hall of Fame. There's like,
or if you listen to Jaylen Brown, it was the Aztecs or whatever.
It was the Aztecs. It was the Legends of the Hidden Temple, I think, is what he had painted on his fucking shoes. Olmec.
Yeah,
the Blue Barracudas.
Good
So
shit,
I've
bro.
always said we've always had some beef with Boston, so I'll be pulling for the Sixers, man. Hope you guys can shock the world, as they say.
That's a good
So,
man. That's a good man. I appreciate that,
All
bro.
right.
I appreciate you having me on, and keep crushing it because this show is fucking awesome, dude. I love listening as a basketball fan, so please keep it up.
Likewise, man.
Good shit, brother.
Appreciate it. See ya. Tired of being soft when you should be hard? 40% of men suffer from hormonal imbalances and low testosterone, and no one is willing to talk about it. The average male testosterone level has decreased by 26% over the past 3 decades. The situation is that you have a bunch of guys that are depressed. They don't have energy. They can't focus. They're gaining weight faster. Their libido is gone. Elevated by Astroflav is an all-natural testosterone booster containing 2 powerful ingredients, Fedosia agrestis and Tonkat Ali. This combination in Elevated has shown results of 250-point increase in total testosterone, but can be anywhere between 200 to 400-point increase. Increased testosterone levels means increases in energy, improvements in libido, reduction in stress levels, while building muscle and burning fat. Elevated by Astroflav has over 500,000 bottles sold to men with amazing results. Get a free 2-week trial of Elevated, available at astroflav.com/barstool. Just pay shipping. All right, thank you to Rone. That was contentious. Did we get to contentious, TJ? I was sweating, man. I was sweating.
I think that at some point he realized that part of his contention may have been influenced by the editing style of the TikTok algorithm. But no, I mean, nobody, like you said, is better at jumping into a conversation and adjusting on the fly than that guy. So
I'm extremely non-confrontational, so the few times that I get put in a position where, because I like I said when I went on the rant about charges on the show, there's really only like 4 things that I care about that I get fired up enough about to like actually be able to articulate and get, and more often than not, everything else I believe you can very easily get me to walk back. Very easily.
yeah, I'm the exact same way where I'll have an argument with somebody here and they'll make a good point in response and I'll be like, you're right, I actually don't care that much about this argument at all.
The first probably 8 or 9 times I hung out with Big Cat, he wanted to argue about Jordan versus LeBron, because I would take the LeBron side just because I knew how much he loved Jordan and I thought it'd be funny to be confrontational about it. And within like 30 seconds of the topic getting brought up, I would immediately regret it because I'd be like, I really don't give it, man. I don't. And then he would try to get serious with me. He's like, no, but seriously, I need, like, shtick aside. We're not on air. We're not like Jordan or LeBron. And I was like, Dan, seriously, I don't give a shit. I seriously, like, I do not care either way. I don't care. I don't know how else to tell. He's like, how can you not care? And I was like, I don't know. I just must have some sort of defect in my brain where I just like don't care. I don't know. So yeah, Rone had me rattled there for a second. I thought he was coming in throwing haymakers, and I was not prepared, TJ. But sorry, he's the best. I like him. Him. We'll have him back on. Pat Bev show's fun, man. I enjoy.
I think it's incredible, and I don't know. Like, I don't think Rone would have talked about this that much, but ever since he moved from the Lakers to the Bulls, I think that show's improved in quality tremendously.
Oh yeah. I imagine
whether it's Pat Bev, it's spending more time in like the Barstool Chicago office, hanging out with those guys, and like getting to know the brand or whatever or what. But
I imagine too awesome. when you're playing for the Lakers, and also teammates with LeBron. Yeah. And you're doing a podcast, and everybody in that locker room knows you're doing a podcast. I imagine you're walking around with a tight butthole at times, and when you get traded to the Bulls, you can probably exhale a little bit more and have a little more fun with the show. So
selfishly, I hope that he re-signs there so that we can hang out with him next year at the new office.
Oh, the Pat Bev Chicago. Yeah, that would be awesome. If
he re-signs with the Bulls, and you and Pat Bev can start teaching the office how to play basketball.
I'll take care of the shooting. He takes care of the defense, dude. And we'll
have an elite.
We'll have a fucking elite team, dude. Yeah, we're just running clinics like on his end of the floor. He's teaching defensive slides on my end. We're just doing beef, balance eyes, elbow follow through. Yeah, that's awesome. Where were we? We were talking about Steph Curry. This guy, Stephen Curry. How he's probably the best in the world. I don't know. That's what everyone's saying right now. And yeah, like I just said with talking about Rone, like I don't care enough to argue against it. It makes sense. It's something that tracks in my mind. Like you say it, I think about it for a second. I go, yeah, that checks out. I'm cool with that. That's okay. So but that seems to be one of the big talking points with Steph right now, and rightfully so. But the other one that is more interesting as we look forward to the Lakers-Warriors round 2 is this idea that Steph's coming off of a Finals MVP, his first Finals MVP, his 4th title, but the first Finals Iguodala with the help from Max Kellerman won the Finals MVP trophy, and then obviously Durant kind of swooped in and won his 2 fraudulent Finals MVP trophies. So Steph had never won a Finals MVP, finally wins one, and now all of a sudden you're looking up and this NBA playoff race is wide open, and the Celtics are the favorites, but the Celtics had a lot harder time putting away the Hawks than we thought they might. And suddenly, like, the Warriors, and even if the Celtics do make the finals, the Warriors took care of them last year, so like people just become a runaway train with like what's going to happen next, and you're saying, oh my God, what if Steph handles LeBron in round 2? He would have the upper hand on him all time. He already does all time in playoff series and all of that. But then what if he beats LeBron, goes on to win his 5th title? LeBron only has 4. Wait a second. Would Steph, if LeBron is, oh my God, could this happen? Could Steph actually jump over LeBron? Could this happen? No, it couldn't. It's not even close. Like, LeBron is miles and miles and miles ahead of Steph in terms of the all-time legacy type stuff, in terms of and I don't say this to slight Steph. This is not a Steph versus LeBron. Like, you have to be a fan of one and then shit on the other, which seems to be how all the 14-year-olds on Reddit operate. It's not even close. LeBron is objectively better, has objectively had the better career. When Steph Curry was 22 years old, he was a rookie in the league, averaging 17.5 points a game on a 26-win team. When LeBron was 22 years old, he was averaging 27 points a game and leading a dog shit Cavs team to the finals. That's Steph has so much catching up to do in terms of the totality of the career, that he could sweep the Warriors could sweep the Lakers. They could sweep through the rest of the playoffs. It's still not even a debate in my mind, objectively. But, and here's the part where I contradict myself and take all of that back, and I, play both sides of this thing. I don't think it matters. I don't think, in the same way that, like, when I was talking about the MVP race before the playoffs started, and I said, like, I'm kind of gotten to a point where I'm over processing stats and all that sort of thing. And the arguments that resonate with me more than anything else are the ones that just come from the gut and the feelings, and this is how I feel. And I don't know if it's right or wrong or otherwise, but God damn it, I feel it in my loins that this is the basketball opinion I have. Those are the kind of takes that I respect at this point, more than like the people that are breaking down your VORP, whatever the hell that acronym is, and your box plus minus and win shares per 48 and all that kind of nonsense. So LeBron has Steph in basically every quantifiable category, I would imagine, like the trophy cases, the longevity, all that kind of thing. But to paraphrase Maya Angelou, which I imagine I might be the only Barstool podcast that is quoting Maya Angelou, but maybe not. I don't know.
I think Mean Girls Pod did a segment about her today.
People only remember how you make them feel. And I think that's one thing that Steph has that LeBron, not to say that LeBron has never like reached those heights where it's blown our minds as we've watched him accomplish things in his career. It's just Steph, as TJ said at the top of the show, single-handedly revolutionized the game of basketball. I mean, single-handedly, like, I joke all the time about how Steph taught everybody that 3 is worth more than 2, and like NBA teams had no idea that you got more points if you made it from behind the line. I say that tongue in cheek, but also there's some truth to that like before, everyone knew those shots were worth more, obviously, but no one thought that you could like actually make them at high enough clip and you could basically spam the 3-point line and make it be successful until the Warriors came along and won as a jump shooting team. That was the conventional wisdom, as Charles Barkley said that entire 2015 run, was that you cannot win NBA titles shooting jump shots. It can't be done. The Warriors said, watch this. Steph Curry said, watch this. They did it, and now the entire league has tried to follow that model. But that's just from like the way you build your team and try to win basketball game standpoint. From the fan standpoint, Steph Curry has just created this basically illusion that like any one of us could have been what he is. Like there's this aura about him that when you watch him play, like kind of what I was saying with Game 7 where he scored 50 points, that it feels like it's more because of how he scores. But then also the other side of that is you watch him and make it look so easy, and you watch him up against guys that are bigger, stronger, faster at times than him, and you say that could be me, and he has that LeBron will never have, is like this underdog sort of story to him, which is hilarious because this cracks me up too with Steph, is that Steph in between Steph and LeBron, Steph is the underdog because Steph is the guy that weighed 160 pounds in high school, that couldn't even get a scholarship to Virginia Tech for Seth Greenberg, got asked to walk onto the team. That even when he got to the league, he had bum ankles, and like there was concerns about whether his ankles would shorten his career, and like I said, the jump, that moment in time where we're like, can this style even work in the league? There are all these questions, and then he breaks through and arrives, and now he is what we know him to be. Whereas LeBron was like the guy who had Chosen One tattooed on his back and calls himself a king and is on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 17 and is the most hyped high school basketball player maybe ever, certainly since Kareem. But then I sort of laugh at that because I'm like, LeBron was also raised by a single mother and was kind of poor, and went on to become like one of the greatest players of all time. And Steph was, his dad was an NBA player, and it's not like everyone talks about Steph like he's 5'9", he's 6'3", and his dad played in the NBA, and his mom was like an incredible volleyball player, and it's not like this man is just like some schlub off the streets that like had no advantage whatsoever. But anyway, I digress. To the larger point, Steph has somehow figured out this way to make people feel things they've never felt when they watch basketball, and I think that is what ultimately has led to these moments where we find ourselves like saying, can Steph catch LeBron? When like rationally speaking, no, he can't. Objectively speaking, LeBron James is a better basketball player historically than Steph Curry is. But for a lot of people, that doesn't matter because the way you feel when you watch Steph is something that you like he has taken a different approach to the game. LeBron basically took like the conventional approach to basketball, maximized it, said like all of us were trying to play basketball this way. LeBron was like, I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to do it at a level no one's ever seen before. And then Steph was like, I'm going to do it completely opposite way, or like a completely different way. And yeah, like that the value that people feel when they watch him play, the value that comes with that is worth more than any number of MVPs or All-Star games or anything else that LeBron has for him. So I find that fascinating with the Steph LeBron, because if it was any other player than Steph Curry, if this was Jimmy Butler, who people love Jimmy Butler. I said he's probably the most likable superstar in the league right now. If Jimmy Butler had the same career accomplishments that Steph had, and we were going into this series with LeBron against LeBron, I don't think people would be talking about Jimmy Butler being able to maybe catch LeBron, or like where would Jimmy Butler rank all time, all that sort of thing. But it's just because Steph is like, it's just magical. That's the only way to describe it. It's like you watch him play and you're just like, you feel things that you've never felt when you watch him. He at certain points, never mind, I'll say it now, like coming off of Game 7, Steph Curry is the one NBA player since Michael Jordan, I would say. I'm just speaking from my own experience. I won't speak for anybody else. For me, Steph is the one player since Jordan that is the most must-watch television, in the sense that he could get me to watch any regular season game. If you told me that, if there was like an ESPN promo and they're like, this Friday night, Steph Curry and the Warriors are playing, insert any NBA team here. And of course, folks, we got to remind you, Steph Curry in his last 3 games has scored 40 points or scored this, that, or the other. I'm watching that game. I'm tuning in. I'm watching the game. LeBron had that at times, but like Steph was more so than Kobe, more so than LeBron, more so than Tim Duncan, who I think is if you really stuck a gun to my head and made me rank basketball players who's better, I'd probably say Tim Duncan is still better than Steph Curry. But Steph has that none of those guys have ever had, which is like, I want to watch him play. I will clear my schedule to watch him play basketball. And I guess that's my big takeaway point with all this stuff of trying to like rank players, and you get to a certain point where the stats don't matter, the trophy cases don't matter. It's ultimately just how guys make you feel when you watch them play, and that's why Kobe's like legacy for so many people, especially out here in Los Angeles. Like there are people that legitimately believe Kobe Bryant's the best player to ever play basketball, and that's so insane to so many other people that when they would watch Kobe didn't necessarily feel the things that people feel that the Kobe fans felt when they watch Kobe. So if you didn't feel those things, you're like, how the fuck, like what? in what world is Kobe even top 10? You know, and like, but if you went through it and you felt that as Kobe was doing whatever the hell it was Kobe would do on a basketball court and the whole Black Mamba bullshit and all that, it doesn't matter to you. There's no argument that you could say that, like, yeah, but Jordan has this, or LeBron has this, or these guys have this. You ultimately land at, like, I don't care about any of that. I know how I felt when I watched Kobe Bryant play basketball, and for that reason, I have him as one of my GOATs. That's what this series is to me, between Steph and LeBron. When you try to, like, suss out who's got the upper hand of this generation and who's more important to the game and all that sort of thing, LeBron is head and shoulders a better basketball player. But I don't know if that matters. I don't know if that ultimately will matter to people. You know,
I think it's like the situations are so different too. Where, like, look at the team Steph has played with his entire career versus the teams LeBron, and that's not a knock on anybody, but it's just like Steph's greatest attribute, I think, is his takeover ability. We talked about that a little with Trae Young last week, where it's like when Trae Young does the Trae Young thing, the Hawks are really good.
Yes.
Steph Curry's just hit percentage of doing the Steph Curry thing happens to be, like, one of the highest we've seen for a player of his style, where he just, like, can just start.
And when he does it, though,
anywhere on the court.
And when he does it, though, you have the thought in your head of how is he doing this? Whereas when LeBron takes over a game and LeBron scores 30 straight, you're like, nothing has made more sense in my life than the guy that's bigger and faster and stronger than everybody is dunking on them. Like, of course that's happening. When Steph
LeBron
does
is
it,
like, he looks like a computer-generated basketball player.
Yeah.
LeBron is like, how build your ideal basketball build and skill set, and that's LeBron James. Steph Curry, it's like, yes, he looks smaller than everybody or whatever, but he's just like doing, it's like magic when he's just like, run up, take like an off-balance, one-footed shot from 35 feet out. Yeah, that's an easy switch.
So that's there's never going to be an answer. I guess that's like ultimately why unless a gun is being held to my head, I probably never will put out a list of, like, who I think the top players are, and because, like, all of it is subjective, and I think you get to you want to approach these things as though they're not, but they are. That's ultimately what it is. Is like, if you want to argue that Steph Curry is a more impactful player than LeBron James, I probably disagree, but I understand how you have that viewpoint, you know? Like, I understand what led to you thinking that, and I would feel like some sort of asshole to try to, like, argue against you, to be honest with you, because if that is your truth, that is, like, how you watch basketball, is like this guy out there scoring 50 points in the manner that he does, if it moves something inside of you more than LeBron having his 20-year dominance of his career, that's your prerogative, man. So that's a... I don't know. I'm just so excited that we get them in a series again. How crazy is it that they're both born in Akron too, TJ? Like, that feels like some sort of, like, comic book something or other. I don't know. I don't know what the comic book lore is there, but, like, that they're born in. Was it the same hospital too? Is that? I think that was the story as well. I think they're like the same hospital in Akron. These guys were born in.
They should have both went there for college.
Sometimes the days can get so crazy that you forget to make time for fun. When that happens, you've got to choose to chill. So go ahead, say yes to midweek happy hours and catching the game after work. And while you're at it, enjoy an ice-cold Coors Light, the beer that is made to chill. There's only one beer out there that's literally made to chill, and that is Coors Light. And that is why, in just a few short weeks, I will be going to the Indianapolis 500 with a cooler full of Coors Light. It is May. It is officially May. It is here. It is the greatest month in the city of Indianapolis. I'm so fired up for the Indy 500, and I cannot wait to take my cooler full of Coors Light and just be sipping on the silver bullets in the infield of turn 3, drinking those blue mountains down, because when you're making time to chill, there's only one thing you can do, and it's crack open a Coors Light. It is mountain cold refreshment made to chill. When you choose to chill, pair your plans with an ice cold Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Drizzly or Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/Titus. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Okay, here's the hypothetical. LeBron James and Steph Curry, they join Akron tomorrow. Does Akron win the MAC? Yes or no?
I think if every other player on the team entered the transfer portal, they would still win the MAC.
Could they win the MAC? Could they finish? Would they win the MAC tournament? I don't know.
2-1-5. Yeah.
Embrace debate. Anyway, Lakers Warriors is going to be by far the best round 2 series. I think. I reserve the right to walk that back. But in terms of storylines, you're not beating this. I mean, this is. I imagine the ratings are going to be bananas. I imagine. Yeah, it's going to be a great series. I think the Warriors are better suited to win it. I think, like I was talking with Rone, like we never really did get a full strength versus full strength look at these two teams. I think they played, was it opening night they played, where the Lakers are a completely different team. So like that kind of told us nothing. But otherwise, there were guys that were out every time they played. So it's kind of anyone's guess what the matchup will look like. My guess, though, as I have been watching these teams in the playoffs, one, I do think Steph is better than LeBron right now. I think Steph Curry is a better, like at this moment in time, 35-year-old Steph Curry is a better basketball player than 38-year-old LeBron James, and I don't think that's necessarily controversial at all. But the question with LeBron, as is always the question, is can he just dig deep and find those moments of greatness can LeBron in certain moments still be the best player on the floor? He's not going to be over the course of a 6-7 game series.
Right.
But in the biggest crunch time moments when it's time to take over the game, if LeBron decides to flip that switch, is there a damn thing the Warriors can do about it? I don't know. It remains to be seen. At 38 years old, LeBron will tell you yes. At a certain point, Father Time will win. Let's find out. I have no idea. But I think the Warriors have the advantage because I do think Steph is better than LeBron right now. The Warriors have home court advantage. And I think the Lakers have some serious issues trying to figure out who's going to guard Steph in a way that I think the Warriors have a more clear defensive game plan. I think the Warriors, like obviously Kevon Looney is going to guard Anthony Davis. How effective he'll be, I think he'll be good enough. I mean, but it's less about like Kevon Looney's going to shut down AD and more like they know who they are and this is what they're going to do. And I think Wiggins will be on LeBron, and you're going to have Draymond just like roaming around like he does, where he's like a permanent help side defender and just creating chaos defensively. Where I look at like the Lakers on offense, and I think the Warriors have answers, not necessarily that they're going to shut them down, but just that like they know who they are and what they're going to bring to the table against the Lakers. Whereas when the Warriors are on offense, I don't know what the Lakers are. The Lakers are a good defensive team. This is how the Lakers have found success. Anthony Davis is a great defender, but Anthony Davis isn't going to guard Steph Curry. Anthony Davis is not going to guard Klay Thompson. I don't know who guards Steph. I assume it's going to be Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt's a good defender. I kind of hate that matchup. I don't love Jared Vanderbilt running around, chasing Steph Curry, running around screens. I don't necessarily think that's he is a very, very good defender. I don't think that's his forte though. And also there comes the problem of like, if Vanderbilt is the one guy, I think it's Vanderbilt and Schroeder, the two guys that can guard Steph. Other than that, like Austin Reeves is too important offensive. One, I don't think Austin Reeves can guard Steph. Two, even if you want Austin Reeves to guard Steph, he's too important on offense that you don't want him blowing his load, chasing Steph all over the place to where he contributes nothing on the offensive end. D'Angelo Russell certainly is not the answer defensively with Steph Curry. So I really feel like the two guys that have any hope or prayer of guarding Steph for the Lakers are Jared Vanderbilt and Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder obviously is not starting. Maybe he does. Maybe Darvin Ham wants to shake up the starting lineup. Throw Schroeder out there to be the Steph stopper. If Vanderbilt is the guy that's going to be tasked with stopping Steph, that becomes an interesting wrinkle because what happens on defense when Draymond Green is guarding Vanderbilt and just leaving him wide open, because that's what's going to happen. And Vanderbilt is going to get the treatment that Draymond often gets, where they just leave him wide open, dare him to hit threes, and even if he makes one, the other team's just like, all right, you're not going to do it again. So that is the fascinating dynamic at play here. Is I think the Lakers have to play Jared Vanderbilt for defensive purposes, and I think the Lakers almost can't play Jared Vanderbilt for offensive purposes, because if they do, Draymond Green can just be like a roaming free safety defensively, and that just creates all sorts of problems for a team that isn't even that good shooting-wise. So like the Lakers are going to have to score on the interior, and if Draymond can just like clog up the paint, obviously defensive 3 seconds rules and zone defense is illegal in the NBA, or not illegal, but for all intents and purposes, it's not as easy as it is in college for Draymond to just camp under the basket. But the Warriors are going to have more answers for the Lakers offense than the Lakers are going to have for the Warriors offense. I think the Warriors also have Steph Curry, who's better than everybody else, and they also have home court advantage. So I think the Warriors are probably going to win this series.
Yeah, and
that's mine.
In the LeBron versus Steph argument, the other thing you have to consider here is that those decisions you're talking about that's the GM or the head coach helping make those calls as well, where he has to figure out personnel on the fly or draw up a play during a timeout when the cameras are on him when they're coming back from a commercial break. Where LeBron has done probably one of the best jobs in his career is like assembling teams that can make the playoffs and be competitive. Like he's played on some very, very weird rosters in his career and gone very far with them.
Right.
But as he gets older and he has less personal effect, he has to do more on the opposite side where it's figuring out, who the hell's going to score if it's not the guys on the team that are supposed to be scoring most of the points.
I think LeBron and AD are better than it would be Clay. I mean, Steph and whoever the second best guy. Yeah. Clay didn't play particularly well against the Kings in Game 7, but it's good. It's Clay. I think LeBron and the summation of LeBron and Anthony Davis as a duo are better than Steph and Clay.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just think the Warriors have more answers for if you're going to Steve Kerr and you're like, all right, these are the problems that the Lakers can provide. Steve Kerr's like, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And you go to Darvin Ham and you say, these are the problems that the Warriors bring to the table. He's like, fuck, I'm going to need a second. Yeah. I'm going to have to think about that. You're going to have to, I think that's where both of these teams are entering the series. So I expect the Warriors to win. They're definitely favored to win. But yeah, good luck to you if you count out LeBron and playoffs. And again, like at some point, Father Time's going to catch up and he's going to go to flip that switch and it's not going to work. But I think it's going to be a great series. I think the Warriors get up and down a little more too. I think the Grizzlies, like the Lakers upsetting the Grizzlies, were a great matchup stylistically, where they weren't quite the Zach Randolph grit and grind Grizzlies, but they were still like a defensive minded team that wasn't. That didn't have Steph Curry. They didn't have a dude that's, they didn't have shooters at every position, and or some of the all-time great shooters in an offense that can pour in points in a hurry. And
they
I think
also
that
poked the bear. I don't think the Warriors.
They poked the bear. The Warriors are not going to poke the bear. The Warriors are going to do the opposite, where Draymond's going to do his podcast and just slobber up LeBron nonstop, and then maybe punch him in the balls, and then leave everybody very confused. Like, does he like this guy or not like this guy? This is confusing. Yeah. No, you're right. There's a reverence that the Warriors have for the Lakers, and an appreciation and a respect for LeBron and all that. That they're not going to be that stupid. So,
right.
I don't know. It's going to be an awesome series, and I think the Warriors will win, but I don't really have a preference either way. So
I am not worried, but interested in seeing the two series that are highlighted in this round are obviously Sixers Celtics in the East and Warriors Lakers on the right in the West.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because of the storylines that are there, that we're paying more attention to those than Knicks Heat or the Nuggets Sun series. But I wonder if these two series are going to have the players exhausting so much energy to try and get past this one level that they're just going to get blindsided by,
yes,
in some cases, maybe not in the East, but on the West, like maybe a better team than either of them if they make it to the next round. And it's you have the Nuggets or the Suns that have been waiting around for you guys to like punch each other in the face over and over again, and then you have to run into
I could totally, TJ, that seems very plausible to me that the Warriors beat the Lakers. The conversations we were having earlier about like Steph versus LeBron's legacy and holy shit, what if Steph adds number 5 and yada yada yada. They become a runaway train, and like say the Warriors win in 5, especially like it's kind of a no contest type deal where it's like, oh my God, Steph just embarrassed LeBron in this series. And then it's a runaway train talking about Steph's legacy and where he ranks all time and all that. And the Nuggets, who I think are the best team in the West. And I'm saying this, again, I'm putting myself in a bad position because they play tonight and everybody listening knows what happened in Game 2. But I do think the Nuggets are very, very good. And the Nuggets are kind of disrespected, maybe, but it might be rightfully so, because they have not gotten over the hump in the playoffs. They have defensive issues. Jokic looks... the things that Jokic does or the way he approaches the game that makes you love him, when it's not working, it makes you hate him because he just looks like he's like lazy and just like out of shape and just kind of plodding up and down the court and throwing the ball all over the gym. Yeah. And when that's working and he's like shooting from behind his head and barely jumping and, whipping passes left and right, you're like, this guy's awesome. I fucking love watching this guy. When it's not working and he's just kind of like lazily throwing the ball up at the rim, you want to pull your hair out and you're like, this guy sucks. But I think the Nuggets are in a position going into Game 2 tonight that I said this last show. I think this is by far the best chance they've ever had to win a title with since Jokic's ascended into the player he's become. With Jamal Murray being healthy, with Michael Porter, who's playing out of his mind, and Aaron Gordon, such a good energy guy. KCP's like a defensive, he doesn't turn them into a defensive-minded team, but like they actually have a guy who wants to play defense, which has been a problem for them in the past. I think the Nuggets are very much legit. It's just that their jerseys still say Denver Nuggets, so people aren't quite taking them quite as seriously as they have in the past. So I think you might be onto something. The Warriors win, and then it feels we penciled them into the finals, and the Nuggets are like not so fast.
It's a tough prize for winning the LeBron versus Steph sweepstakes, as you get to go play Jokic, and then if you win that, you're probably either getting Jason Tatum and the Celtics or Jimmy Butler on the greatest playoff run in NBA history.
Well, to your point, like the Celtics Sixers series, it's a great one, or maybe it's not. Either way, whoever is left standing there, you're like, oh man, we're on to the finals, and then you look up and it's Jimmy Butler and the Heat, and I mean, if I told you that the Celtics beat the Sixers in 5 or 6 games, but then the Heat knock him out, are you shocked? I don't think I would be, based on what's happened so far. Assuming Jimmy Butler's healthy, obviously. If his ankle is bothering him, that's a different story. But, I mean, at this point, all bets are off, man. Like, anything could happen. And that is a rarity with the NBA, man. That's why I'm so excited about these playoffs, because it is – I don't think the Knicks can win a title, now that I think about it. I told Rone that all 8 teams could win it. I don't think the Knicks can win a title.
Not since Frank the Tank put the hat on. It's over.
That's true. That's true.
Frank the Tank put that hat on. They immediately blew a double-digit lead in Game 1.
So funny.
Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are both questionable for Game 2. It's over, man. It's
That's
over.
so funny.
Frank. But this comes out tomorrow. The Rangers are beating the Devils tonight also with Frank the Tank in the building. That's just that's how this works. The Devils are not winning with Frank in attendance. I've seen this play.
It's not even. Yeah, it's not even. You're not even saying that as a joke.
If you're listening to this in the morning, last night the Rangers beat the Devils 4-1.
I'm not laughing because I think you're joking. I'm laughing because of how right you are and how just confidently you're just like, this is how this works.
I feel like I've seen this play out.
This is immutable. Like this is the law of gravity at play. Like this is like
you don't show up to streams. Sorry, and you're Frank the Tank.
As sure as the sun rises in the east.
Yes.
Frank the Tank will, but the Heat could easily beat the winner. I don't know. I think we've exhausted everything we need to talk about, but any shout outs before we go?
I was just gonna give an anti shout out to all 32 NFL GMs and draft boards for not taking.
Your punter didn't go top 10.
He didn't go.
He didn't go at all, but he definitely didn't go top 10. I turned it off after the 10th pick because I was like, I was waiting for the Rutgers punter that TJ promised me to go top 10.
Two punters went. One was from Michigan State, and one was from a D2 school.
Dude, you got me to read an article about this guy, and I should have done a better job of pulling the quote. I was reading it on draft night on Thursday, and now I forget what it was. But there was I was reading basically the premise of the article was that like he sees punting. He's playing 4D chess out there as he punts, and I was laughing so hard as I was reading the article because it's just like
he's a game changer, man.
You're kicking the ball, dude. But also I understand that there is more strategy that goes into it. So just like hearing him, like the idea of there being a cerebral punter is hilarious to me. Like a guy who sees the game at a different level than all those other punters that are just kicking the shit out of the ball. I don't kick the shit out of the ball. What I do is I place the ball with my foot out there.
He's too ahead of the pack.
He's going to get picked up, right? He's going to get picked up.
He's got a couple of mini camp invites, but there's only 32 punter jobs in the league, so it's not, the easiest thing in the world. But, I mean, one team will see him at a camp and be like, oh, shit, this is like, we didn't even know punting could be this good.
But isn't the problem with him that he doesn't have booming punt? Like, he's not a guy that's just going to smoke the shit out of the ball.
But it's like, if you're a golf fan, would you rather have, a golfer that hits the ball 500 yards every hole, no matter how long the hole is?
Bryson DeChambeau.
Or a golfer that puts the ball on the green every tee, off of every tee? Distance is not necessarily the best thing for punting. It's placement.
You're right. But I think it might be like a bad workout situation where
it's because he does the Australian style punting where he like runs around, and it's like, will an NFL team implement that? That's the issue.
Well, this is the start of his sports movie. Is that we saw the start. It was draft night. His name's not being called.
Right.
And that's how the movie opens. And then now we get to watch the rest of the movie from here,
Yeah.
and we see what happens next.
When he's a 5-time NFL MVP and he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, don't say I didn't have
What's his holding situation like? Is he a bad holder for field goals? Because don't punters usually have to do that too? Like maybe he's got sloppy hands with the whole.
I don't think he didn't do that for us, but
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe
yeah.
he's going to these workouts and all the teams are like, he's one of the best punters we've ever seen. It's just unfortunately he's a subpar field goal holder, and that's a huge part of the job. And he's like Happy Gilmore. He's got to go learn how to putt. He's got to go learn how to
Australians can't
hold Australians can't hold. They're great punters, but damn it, they don't know how to hold for field goals. Do you feel bad for Will Levis? That's a debate that comes out of the draft. Is how bad do we feel for the man with the, that's going to make
only
millions
made
of dollars.
$1 million instead of $10 million. No, I don't feel bad for it. It sucks that like they do like the Aaron Rodgers, Geno Smith like green screen camera treatment where they cut to you after every single pick. That sucks. Because there's nothing he could do about it. I know, like, Big Cat said, like, he texted him, like, a meme or something during it. But, like, that's the part that sucks. But, I mean, if he's good, he'll be good. If he's bad, he'll be equally bad. Like, where did he end up getting drafted to? The Colts?
Was it the Titans?
The Titans.
Colts
so a team that, like, needs to, like, implement a new quarterback. So he'll get an opportunity either way. And if he is what, like, some teams maybe thought he was, I guess not, going into the draft process, like, he'll still get the money eventually. It's just going to take a while.
I saw Jim Irsay tweeted the idea of drafting Will Levis.
Which
would have been
somebody's got to
hilarious.
get a hold of his Twitter. I don't know. Jim Irsay, he tweeted, he might be the biggest example of why we need the verified check marks back. Because I see a Jim Irsay tweet that's like, we're giving away a bunch of money in a signed jersey if you predict like is this a spam? This guy, did he get hacked? I have no idea if this is a real tweet or not. That guy's either got to get off Twitter or buy the blue check for $1,000 a month.
My dad, by the way, is not really a Colts fan, but he lives in India and he watches the NFL. So he's kind of like me. He's just like I just watch the NFL, but it's hard to grow up in a basketball state like that and be diehard football fan, especially when the Colts were bad for so long. So. Yeah. I don't want to like lie to my audience and at 35 years old pretend to be a diehard Colts fan, but I like all things being equal, I will cheer for the Colts, and I would rather them win than a lot of the other teams in the NFL. But when the Colts took Anthony Richardson, I must have spent like 45 minutes explaining to my dad why he should, one, be excited about this if like you care about the Colts, but two, also like be prepared to not be excited. It was. He was like a perfect prospect to like try to explain to the old dudes in Indiana who are just like, so what he can't throw? And you're like, no, he can't throw, but he could do all these other things. And you're like, yeah, so what position? So what are we going to play him at tight end? You're like, no, you're going to play him at quarterback. And that's the thing, he can throw. It's just not always accurate, but he can bomb the football. But it's not necessarily going to go to the right place. And my dad, like trying to explain to my dad why I was actually happy about this pick, but also explain like what you're going to get out of Anthony Richardson was very funny. So that was a draft night memory for me.
Yeah, I think
I was back home. I was back in Indy watching it with my dad.
Yeah. I think John Rich said afterwards, he was like, he might suck or he might be good, but either way, it'll be like funny or fun to watch.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
It'll be cool.
Yeah, it won't be Matt Ryan or Carson Wentz,
That's not even fun.
That's not even,
he might break off like an 80-yard touchdown run on opening day or like throw an 80-yard in-air pick. So those are fun options.
Goes back to what we were talking about with Steph. People only care about how they make you, how you make them feel. And that's why Bears fans watching Justin Fields this year, like, I don't give a shit that all of you non-Bears fans tell me that this man wasn't good. I felt something for the first time in a very long time watching Bears football.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so gung-ho about Justin Fields. And I think that's Anthony Richardson. It's like Colts fans are going to think he's awesome at different times, and the rest of the league's going to be like, he has thrown twice as many interceptions as he has touchdowns. And they're going to say, we don't care. We're excited. Yeah. For the first time in a long time, the Colts can snap the football, and when the ball's in the quarterback's hands, I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's fun. And sometimes that's all we care about. We don't care about winning or losing or anything else. We just want to feel something. My other draft thought was, I can't believe people go to that thing. I can't believe there's like a live attendance for that. Like that was I mean, I'm watching on TV and I was like, after I watched like halfway through the second round, and I was like, I think I'm good here. Honestly, I'll just like refresh Twitter or something to see what the rest of the picks are. I can't believe people like fly in from around the country to stand there. It was baffling when there were like 125,000 people here on opening night. I was like, what are you doing? I mean, do you like? I don't want to yuck your yum, but like, man, really?
Yeah, I know. Stephen
This is
Shea
crazy.
said on the act today that one of the NFL drafts that was at Radio City Music Hall, he waited in the standby line for like 12 hours to get a ticket
crazy.
to Radio City Music Hall to come back later to get a random spot. It's general admission to watch the draft from Radio City.
It's insane. I don't get it. I don't mean to say you're wrong if you feel that way. I just, for me personally, it's something that does not compute in my mind as to why someone would want to do that. But
I think Shea just
Whatever.
wanted to be in the aura of Mel Kiper.
he wanted the story. Shea wanted the story.
He wanted to see Mel Kiper in person.
Shea wanted to get arrested too, as Rone taught us. So gets his lifetime contract.
Maybe that's how you get it. Yeah, you storm the NBA draft with like a sign that says like, we don't need this at all or something, and then you get arrested there.
That's a Barstool reality show, by the way. It's just like a bunch of
get arrested challenge.
a bunch of employees trying to get arrested to get a lifetime contract. All right, anything else? I think that's it. NHL playoffs we talked about. Avs, I said we're gonna win it all. They are not. They lost at home in Game 7. There goes my bracket. You're who did you say? You said the Devils?
Rangers.
No, you said the Rangers. You're a Rangers guy. Duh. They're playing the Devils.
Yes.
Yeah. They're gonna win. Yeah, you're right. They're
They already
definitely gonna win.
Last
over.
night. 4-1.
Shout out to I went back to Indy for a charity deal that I was emceeing. It was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament with the kid again. This charity that I've worked with forever. It's great. Love those people. They do great stuff. But the Butler basketball managers won the 3-on-3 charity event. So shout out to those guys for winning it was three dudes that said they listened to the show, and they had me sign their trophy was a basketball, and they had me sign it, and I wrote hang the banner on it, and I told them they need to hang a banner in Hinkle Fieldhouse that says we won a charity 3-on-3 Butler managers. So I told them I'd shout them out. So there you go, boys. There's your shout out. All right, that's it. We'll be back on Thursday. Congratulations to the Rangers for beating the Devils 4-1. And yeah, we'll see you guys Thursday.